Alright, this is going to be less of a vlog and more of a meandering confession. I am Viva Frei, a Montreal litigator turned YouTuber. I do these things called vlogs, which are basically breakdowns, explanations of things that are going on in the legal world in terms that everybody can understand. I've actually been making YouTube videos for over 5 years. Over 4 of those years had absolutely no direction. I used to do totally random videos, family videos, cooking videos. I actually did daily vlogging, a video a day, for over 2 years. The purpose of that exercise was to see how long I could do it, to hone my editing and story making skills, and to hopefully become the next Casey Neistat. And that never really happened because I ultimately realized that my personal life was not all that interesting. I wasn't a Casey Neistat, I wasn't a Roman Atwood, and I also really wasn't interested in sort of fabricating or setting up or scripting drama for internet interest. Although a lot of people might consider me to be somewhat eccentric, I'm pretty normal and I'm pretty standard when it comes to my daily living. Walk the dogs, take the kids to school, be a parent, be a lawyer, etc., etc. I did notice, however, that at one point when I started putting out these law-themed videos, what it's like to be a lawyer, what it's like to be a parent and a lawyer, those videos got a lot of interest, they got a lot of traction, they generated a lot of engagement. And for anybody who has been following me for years and has seen those videos, you'll recall that at the beginning I said I don't really like doing these law-type videos because I find it very boring. It was true when I said it, but I think that that sentiment was partly motivated by my rebellion from the practice. After a decade of practice, and for whatever the reason, I was somewhat disillusioned with the practice itself. And my rebellion was doing the exact opposite of the suit and tie, day in and day out practice of law, and that was get on YouTube and make these wacky, zany videos for other people's entertainment. But every time I made one of these law-based videos, I noticed that people were saying, make more of these law videos. It's fun for us to see the insight of what it's like to be a lawyer, to get to know the practice. Some people were saying they are aspiring lawyers, law students, young lawyers, and they got a lot out of those videos. I was very much encouraged with the idea that I was shedding some light on what the practice was for people who have had no experience with it. And I started making more of the law-based videos and fewer of the family-based videos because at the end of the day, everybody loves their family, everybody thinks their family's cute, and there's only so much family viewing that people can do of other people's family on YouTube. There are certainly only that many bad cooking videos that people can watch on YouTube, and I also wasn't interested in exaggerating the badness of my cooking, turning it into a shtick. Ultimately, I'm not very good at pretending to be something that I'm not, and this to a flaw. And it's that fundamental problem of always having to pique the interest of YouTube viewers with more and more exploitive, sensationalized content. It's actually one of the reasons why I think Casey Neistat, Roman Atwood went the way they did. It's also one of the reasons why I think Logan Paul, why I think Logan Paul ultimately got into trouble. The need to keep pushing the envelope, fabricating the drama, it ultimately leads in someone making a very poor judgment call in the pursuit of pushing the drama. And as the law-based videos started picking up traction and from the engagement, I actually did get kind of a good feeling about being able to contribute something positive to other people's lives. The family stuff always adds a fun, real angle, and ultimately I can't get away from it. I have yet to build a studio, but ultimately what I found most rewarding is that people actually got something of value out of my videos. And it was when I really started focusing on that law-based niche, the law vlog, since become the vlog, and thank you to whoever recommended that word to me, that my channel actually started picking up quite a bit. The beauty of the law-based content is that there's always something going on in the legal world that needs to be broken down and explained to people who don't necessarily understand exactly what's going on or the nuances in what's going on. So I started focusing on that law-based niche and the channel really started picking up. I mean, picking up relatively speaking. 2 years ago, I was at 10,000 subscribers. In April, I think I was at 50,000 subscribers. And today, in early November, we're almost at 120,000 subscribers. People love learning about what's going on in the legal world. They love learning about it in a no-spin, non-politicized, non-judgmental, respectful environment. And that is ultimately what I am proudest of having built on YouTube, is a world in which we can learn about, call them controversial subjects, difficult subjects, touchy subjects, in a manner that is fair to both sides and respectful to everyone involved. I can't control what goes on in the comment section, but I can control what goes on in my content section. One of the fringe benefits of having amassed a relatively sizable and highly engaged community is that it sort of opens the doors to very interesting interviews. One of my fortes as a litigation attorney, and I say this without any arrogance or pretension, one of my fortes was the cross-examination. But for the fact that I ultimately felt like I was hurting people even if they deserved it, I was and am very good at cross-examination. I'm good at cross-examination because I'm neurotic about being unprepared and therefore tend to over-prepare. I think quickly on my feet, I can multitask relatively well, as in listen while writing, which sometimes actually creates the illusion that I'm not actually listening, so people don't think I'm picking up on the nuances of what they're saying. I like to think that I'm a particularly good judge of character and that I can tell when someone is being honest and forthright versus hiding something or deceptive. And for good or for bad, I have something of a hyperactive imagination and think non-linearly, so I can go places that I had not even anticipated needing to go from the outset of an examination. Which is why I love interviews. Interviews are really nothing more than a non-confrontational examination. They are discoveries in the purest sense of the word, in that you are there to actually discover what someone else thinks, why they think it, without ultimately being constrained by the fact that you have to subsequently frame it for the purposes of representing the interests of your client. They are discoveries into the mind, soul, and thought process of another person, and I love that. I love that even if I vehemently disagree with everything that I am hearing. And I am always not only open to doing it, but I look forward to doing it. It's sort of what gets me going. A few weeks ago, I noticed that I was tagged in a tweet that someone had tweeted out, which was a retweet of a tweet from somebody else, talking about some awesome Canadian law-themed channel. And again, I'm saying this with the utmost of humility because I genuinely did not believe that the person was talking about my channel. And so I look into it to see where the tweet is coming from, and it's coming from someone named Mike Cernovich. A couple of weeks later, Mike Cernovich actually tweets out, "Check out Viva Frei's YouTube channel, it's great." And I say, "Obligatory retweet, thank you very much." And then I get a DM from a friend who says, "Oh my goodness, you're gonna get in trouble on Twitter now." And I'm like, why would I get in trouble on Twitter for retweeting a tweet that was saying that I have a great YouTube channel? And in doing a little more research on Mike Cernovich, I discovered that he is what the internet refers to as a controversial personality. And then I actually start getting nervous that by having retweeted his tweet, I am somehow gonna get in trouble for whatever controversial statements Mike Cernovich may have made on his own social media platforms. And the initial fear that I may have just destroyed my entire social media platform, that YouTube's gonna shut down my channel for guilt by association, after that fear comes and goes, I look into Mike Cernovich and discover that he was actually the individual behind the successful FOIA request into the documents in the Epstein case that had been sealed for, I think, over a decade. And so I DM Cernovich on Twitter and I say, would you do a live stream talking about this whole FOIA process? Because I think a lot of people would be amazingly interested in hearing about it. How does the FOIA process work? And for those of you who don't know what it is, it's the Freedom of Information Act. How does a FOIA request work? How do you get to court to ask that they unseal documents? What legal standing do you have to prove to court in order to have the locus standi, the legal interest, to make a FOIA request? Setting aside any controversy and what people might think of Mike Cernovich as an individual, I am tremendously interested in that entire process. And so I reach out to Mike Cernovich, ask him if he'll do a live stream, and he says yes. And then I'm up all night again fearing that I might be in the process of destroying my social media platform, if only through some guilt by association with Mike Cernovich and the ills that are accused of him in his personal and professional life. And this sentiment, I wouldn't say it makes me angry, it's very discouraging, it's very upsetting, and it's very stifling. That said, and anybody who's been following my channel from the beginning knows that I am a big proponent of freedom of speech, and I'm also a big proponent of having discourse with people who we may disagree with. But we live in this social media environment where there is such a guilt by association. If you talk to someone who espouses beliefs that are different than you, if you talk to someone who might hold controversial beliefs, you are, as a matter of fact, guilty by association. And it goes one step further than that. It's almost come to the point where now if you don't use your social media platform to publicly repudiate people who apparently are dislikable figures, you are guilty by association. If you don't get up on a stage and say F Trump, you get kicked out of the show. If you don't get up on certain social media platforms like Facebook and YouTube and say that certain people are evil and have no redeeming qualities, you get demoted, deranked, or throttled. I genuinely believe that the suppression of ideas and the suppression of discourse doesn't negate the ideas in the eyes of those who hold them, it validates them. Ideas need to be discussed regardless of whether or not you agree with them, and oftentimes the best discussion is when you don't agree with them. This is why I love examinations, this is why I love live stream interviews. And ultimately, I do have aspirations. I have aspirations of being the Howard Stern minus the shock jock, of being the Joe Rogan minus the drugs. I love Joe Rogan and Howard Stern even if I don't agree with everything they do or the manner in which they do it. But we live in a world now, if it hasn't always been this way to some extent or another, in which we believe that we have to be in 100% agreement with anyone with whom we make a public appearance. We feel that we have to be in 100% agreement with anyone who we're friends with on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. We feel such a need to be in 100% agreement with people that we follow on these social media platforms that the second we see a divergence between our opinion and theirs, we start to feel scared. We start to feel concerned. We start to feel ashamed. We start to think that maybe we have to dissociate ourselves from this person. And it's the most incredible phenomenon, and I notice it on my own channel as well. People in the comment section saying, usually I agree with you, but you're way off this time. I don't know what to think. As though there's a problem with disagreeing with someone that you might happen to like. As though diverging opinions and diverging beliefs is a liability and not an asset. As though discussing these ideas in an open yet respectful manner is somehow problematic. I don't want to fall into the cliche of blaming everything on cancel culture, but I think this is a direct offshoot of that pressure. This reflexive need to jump on, bash, dissociate from anybody who says something that we might disagree with. I listen to people who espouse beliefs that I disagree with. I listen to people who espouse beliefs that I agree with, but I disagree in the manner in which they convey those beliefs. I listen to Howard Stern even if I find some of his humor funny, but would never do it myself because at the end of the day I don't like making people feel bad. I listen to Joe Rogan even if I might feel relatively strongly about not doing drugs. But given this pressure of cancel culture and the need to be in 100% uniformity as though any diverging ideas is a bad thing, we now have this fear that we are somehow associated with someone who's going to say something that's going to get me in trouble because we're Twitter friends, because we're Instagram friends, because I subscribe to their YouTube channel. I hate having to feel that we are walking on eggshells because of what other people decide to do in their lives. I hate feeling a pressure not to have certain discussions with certain people because of how other people might react. I can have a respectful discussion with someone who might espouse what I feel to be the most vile beliefs on earth. People are entitled to their beliefs, and ultimately people are entitled to be wrong. Someone may espouse vile beliefs today and in 5 years' time no longer espouse those beliefs, if only because they actually had discussion that shed some light on their beliefs. Some people may never change even through discourse, but people around them might change. But people around them are not going to change through suppression of those people's beliefs. The stifling of discussion, however offensive, through direct or indirect pressure doesn't lead to anything. It doesn't lead to the betterment of the world, and I may be the first to admit that all of this indirect pressure I'm feeling might be in my own head. But I don't think it is. There's an expression in French, pourquoi mourir pour une cause? Why die for one cause when there are so many? And this may be a little dramatic, but I have been living this social media thing for 5 years, and I have seen the tendencies. I don't think the pressure is perceived. I think the pressure, both direct and indirect, is very real. How dare you even give certain people a platform to express their ideas? I happen to be something of an optimist in certain respects. People, generally speaking, after open discussion, will probably come to the right decisions on their own. I believe that the likelihood of coming to the right decisions in the face of suppression are in fact decreased. I think that when certain discussion is directly or indirectly suppressed, you don't actually undermine those controversial views. You just legitimize them in the eyes of the people who hold them, and you pique the interest of people who are now deprived of the open discussion of those ideas. And so all that to say is I'm going to do the live stream with Mike Cernovich, but these are the fears, these are the thoughts that it has invoked in my soul, in my being. I did a live stream interview with Robert Barnes, the attorney for the Covington Catholic kids, and the attorney for the person who shall not be named on YouTube, Alex Jones. I just named him. I was fearful that I was going to get a backlash for interviewing someone who dared not insult Alex Jones, but actually compliment. I did a few live streams with the amazing Lucas, even if I don't agree with everything he says, and even if I don't agree with the way he says certain things. It was great, insightful discourse, and I got something out of it, and I think the rest of the world got something out of it. I do live streams with another YouTube lawyer, Nate Brody, even if I don't agree with everything he says. I love discussion, but there is this part of me that fears being pigeonholed, being labeled, being castigated, being cornered by social media where people are actually afraid of having open discourse with other people because of how other people might react. It's actually the amazing thing about extending these invitations and seeing who accepts them. I have a fundamental respect for anybody who will engage in an open and public discussion because they know that by having this open and public discussion, they are exposing themselves to judgment. They are exposing themselves to being dissected by the aggregate knowledge of the social media community. Now, admittedly, others are going to say that some people just want any platform to say whatever they want because they like the attention. And there are people like that, but the great thing about giving them a platform is that it allows the world to discover if that is in fact their true intention. Sunlight is the greatest disinfectant, and if that is the underlying motivation of the interlocutor, nothing better than public discussion to expose that. The free exchange of ideas is the most valuable intellectual currency out there. And I'm actually coining that, and if anybody quotes that, please give me credit. So that's it. I think I may be repeating myself and rambling a little bit. I want to be the next Howard Stern without the shock jock. I do want to be the next Joe Rogan without the drugs and all that other stuff. And this fear, this sort of internal pressure that I have to not have discussions with certain people because of how other people might react, it's stifling, it's compromising my ability to grow, and it's not a fear I think I can bow to if I indeed want to succeed at what I want to succeed at. Ultimately, it's evolution, and ultimately life has a way of forcing evolution even on the most stubborn reptiles. I'm coining that one too. So that is it. Stay tuned for the live stream, stay tuned for the vlogs, share my channel, help me grow, I greatly appreciate it. If you want to support the channel, PayPal option somewhere up there if anybody has any moral qualms of giving any more money to YouTube. You can buy merch. I'm going to try to prepare like sort of a consolidated list of all of the various very mediocre shirts that I have prepared on my own for the purposes of support. And don't shy away from having open and respectful discussions with people whose beliefs you may find offensive. More important than knowing what you believe is knowing why someone else believes something else. It's a little confusing, but I like that one too. On that note, peace out. Booyah!